Alright, so a little bit of news I missed that I actually want to cover was Carole Ann Ford talking about the potential of a return to Doctor Who in the near future. And I want to talk about this just because I want to weigh up how likely a return for Susan actually is and why I would love to see one personally. This is just going to be a short video going over this article and my thoughts on it. If you did enjoy it, be sure to give it a like, comment down below your thoughts, and subscribe if you're new. Original Doctor Who star ponders emotional return. The last surviving cast member from the very first Doctor Who series said she would like to return to the show as the 60th anniversary of her final appearance approaches. Carole Ann Ford from Ilford plays Susan, granddaughter of the Doctor, played by William Hartnell, when the BBC show started in 1963. The character has frequently been mentioned in the recent series with Ncuti Gatwa. During an appearance at Leeton Comic Con, the actress said she wanted to return, although she admitted it would, quote, be very emotional, very emotional. I don't know if I could survive the excitement, actually. It would be intense beyond all intensity, she said. The 84-year-old is the last member of the original cast following the death of William Russell in June. She said it's not just returning, it would bring back memories of William Russell and Jackie and Bill, William Hartnell, and various other people who aren't with us anymore. I might be a little overcome and start blubbing. I keep being reminded I'm the last one standing and it's not something I'm happy to hear. She appeared as the granddaughter of the original Doctor played by William Hartnell but was left behind after a showdown with the Daleks set in Bedfordshire and broadcast on 26th of December 1964. At the time, the Doctor promised to return for her, but despite appearances in the 20th anniversary of the Five Doctors, a story that would address the reunion between the characters is yet to take place. He said he'd come back and get me, and never did. I'd give him a good telling off if I saw him again, she said. I understand their dilemma, how difficult it must be to write for me. It has been 60 years since I was first in it. I've met Russell T Davies a few times, and I absolutely adore him. He is the man that would be the boss to say yes or a no, so hopefully it's going to be a yes. Last year, the character returned to screens in a newly colorised version of the 1963 episode The Daleks, which broadcast on BBC 4 to mark the show's 60th anniversary. The actress encouraged fans to be vocal in their support for her return, if there was any chance of her returning. In an interview with BBC Three Counties Radio, she hinted that she had had one or two conversations about returning in the past. I've had many conversations about going back, maybe not with the right people, I don't know, she added. When it was suggested her character could be recast, she joked, they better not, I'd burn the studio down. And yeah, I can't help but agree with Carole Ann in this case. If you were to recast Susan, if you were to bring her back, but recast her, I can't help but feel that would be a massive disrespect to Carole Ann Ford, who has been waiting in the sidelines for all this time to come back. The thing is, these actors aren't with us forever, and as this article rightly points out, she is the last of the original 60s crew still with us. Obviously, it was really nice to see William Russell make a cameo in Power of the Doctor, of course, and obviously there's been various tributes to that period of the show recently, what with David Bradley playing the first Doctor a few times and so forth. But there's never actually been a TV exploration of Susan and what happened there. We got close last year with season 1 and Susan being kind of a vocal part of the Doctor's kind of arc in that series and learning to be a bit more open about family. So if there was any time we would get Susan, I do think now is a good time to do it. At the same time though, I do understand the difficulty because how do you pay off something that's been 60 years in the making? How do you create a story that feels satisfying enough to pay off one of the longest running mysteries in Doctor Who history? Why did the Doctor never come back for Susan? Obviously, there's been a few, reasons given before. Again, in the latest series, the Doctor says that his life was too dangerous and he didn't want to involve Susan in that, which makes sense. But I guess what I'm saying is, how do you have them have that conversation and make it feel satisfying for an audience that's been waiting so long? In all honesty, the way I've always thought about it is that if Doctor Who were to end, I think I would do it so that if the show was to definitively end, the last scene would be whoever the current Doctor was at the time, materialising on future London, following the events of Dalek Invasion of Earth, and reunites with Susan, gives her a hug, and that would be like the final credits of the show. I think that would be a really nice way to end Doctor Who, and I've always thought if you were going to end it, that would be one of the only ways I would feel satisfied with the definitive end of Doctor Who. Because otherwise I feel like any other ending, the Doctor dies, regenerates, whatever, could always just be picked up by another writer. But I think that's the only way I think most fans would feel satisfied with a definitive conclusion for the show. I'm not saying that's happening anytime soon, but I've always just thought if you were going to do it, Susan would be the logical one to do it with. At the same time, though, like I say, if they are going to do it, it's going to have to be soon. Like I said, Carole Ann Ford, as she says in this article, is 84. I do think it's worth pointing out that she was invited to the season 1 premiere, as well as being invited to a couple of other things, despite not appearing in Tales of the TARDIS like the other actors invited to the premiere. So I'm hoping that means that there is a possibility of her being involved in the future. I think it's just difficult because it is one of those things that we've waited so long for, and I do understand the difficulty of actually making that feel satisfying for the audience. I think it would be really cool if you had Susan be a one-off companion for like a series or something like that, just so we could see that old dynamic together again for more than just a one-off thing. Because something I really appreciated about the 60s was the ability to revisit an old duo in this case, and not just have it be for 5 minutes and then it was over. Obviously it was still brief, but having more than one episode does at least allow for a bit more exploration of that dynamic than it would otherwise. So I think having her return in a role kind of similar to, I don't know, maybe how Ruby Sunday is returning in season 2, I think that would be interesting, where she joins for a few adventures, or Captain Jack in series 1. But yeah, to wrap this up, I definitely would like to see Susan come back. I think the timing does feel quite right for it, and as I say, we might not have a ton of time left to do it, as sad as that is to say, and given Carole has been so outspoken in wanting to come back, I feel like she deserves it and is owed it by the show, frankly, for her huge contribution she has made. Obviously, I know there's been things that have continued her story on Big Finish and stuff like that, but for me personally, the TV show is like the main thing, and that's the thing I want to see her return in on screen, because I think that would be a lovely thing. I also do just find it interesting that this randomly got like a big BBC article of her talking about a return. Obviously, I'm not saying that necessarily means she's definitely coming back, especially because the BBC News department and the Doctor Who department are very different departments. But equally, normally when it comes to things like this, it's more like other tabloids doing the speculating on a return rather than the BBC themselves. So I'm wondering if there is an element of like trying to plant the seed here, with even Carole Ann saying, oh, it's up to Russell, you know, maybe that is kind of planting a flag of being like, maybe this will be seen as like the thing that convinced him to bring her back. To be honest, I think if he was going to bring her back, he'd have been thinking about it for a while now, but it would make for a better story if he read this article and went, oh, I should bring back Susan. I don't know, I'm just speculating there. Whatever your thoughts are, let me know down in the comments below. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you later.